The Navy base in Indian Head, there's been some references to that today. It's been an important part of the county for more than a century. What can be done to ensure it will remain viable?
First speaking is Peter Murphy.
Very briefly, there are some things that we have done, and there's some things that we continue to do. Number one, it was Charles County government that made sure that the broadband went from General Smallwood down to the base. We did that. NAMO, and a very important organization on the base. I just signed off about 2 weeks ago. $60,000 to lever a $600,000 grant so that they can be successful. I also signed off recently with $10,000 to leverage money so that they can move off the base. They want to have a small office. We talked about Mallows Bay. There are two things typically that the bases look at, or the DoD looks at for closure. They're encroachment and they are community support. Mallows Bay is a Navy shipwreck yard, if you will, and we have a Navy base. By supporting that, it shows that we respect the heritage of our naval force. So we've got to support that, and we have from the very beginning. We're making land use plans to make sure that we reduce encroachment, because there's only one way in and one way out, and that's 210. So we have, and also, for those of you know or may know, we hired John Bohannon. We hired John, who has there's nobody that knows more about these bases than John does. He has direct contact with Steny Hoyer. He's worked in the legislature, and he watches all of these things for us. So it is always at the top of our list in terms of how do we protect that base. And then we also have a couple other things coming up right now that we're still working on with the Department of Commerce on how to still reinforce our support of the base. It's critical to Charles County. We don't have Pax River, right? We don't have what Calvert County has, but we do have that base, and we have to make sure that it's viable and it stays, and it continues to grow. And we are doing everything in that area to make sure that that if and when another BRAC comes along, we will be in a position to be able to fight that off. Thank you.
Next is Reuben Collins.
I commend the work that's been done by the town of Indian Head to initiate redevelopment projects that will bring Indian Head back to hopefully the type of Indian Head that existed when I was a youth. Indian Head was actually on the western side of the county a bustling community and township. But during the course of the last 40 years or so, we've seen that area become more and more a desert in terms of potential opportunity. And that desert is spreading now to the Bryan's Road area. Why is that? Because of land use policy decisions that have limited opportunities in this part of the county. In Bryan's Road in particular, the county had for several years a project to create an actual sub-area plan for Bryan's Road, which would create like a town center. And I'm pretty certain most of the residents in Bryan's Road were unaware of this potential opportunity. It wasn't to provide or create some type of metropolis. It was an opportunity to make it more livable, a walking community where you would see less traffic actually going back and forth. Because coming back to the Bryan's Road area, I see how dependent people are on vehicles when you're on this side of the county, on the western side of the county, because you don't have any other opportunities. And that's spreading certainly throughout the western side of the county. In terms of the base, the point I'm trying to make is that by creating land use policy decisions that severely impact economic development in that area, it will have a negative impact on the future of the Indian Head base.
Next speaking is Henry Thompson.
I'd like to take up the issue of from the standpoint of a young military person, like a Navy person or Marine who has to go in and out of the gate there at the Indian Head Navy base. How do you think they feel when they drive down 210 and they see all these closed up businesses there in that area? They don't have access to fast food things. They don't have access to amenities that they need that are appealing to young people. So they have to get all the way up 210 and go all the way out to 228 and either travel toward Akakeek or go toward Waldorf before they can find anything that's of interest to them. What happens if they have limited transportation and they can't go very far? And they go out the gate on a bicycle or something like this. You know, that does happen in certain cases. There's still nothing there within a short distance that they can either walk to or ride a bicycle to and attain some kind of break or relaxation from their military duties. If they don't like the base and they don't like the area, they're going to consider that a hardship tour, and they're going to start trying to transfer out and trying to leave from that area. That just makes the overall mission of the base much harder. The commander of the base can't access the people that he needs, and they're all trying to leave, and they're dissatisfied and disgruntled, and it just leads to a lot of personnel problems. The best thing to do is the Route 210 area there in Indian Head needs to have more businesses and more services available for those younger people who have to work on that base. Thank you.
Last is going to be Brian Claus.
I'm so glad we're able to talk about Indian Head tonight. The base at Indian Head in Stump Neck, my mom retired from Stump Neck, my dad retired from the base in Indian Head. It was the gateway to the middle class for our family. And it's a key and integral part of our local economy. So what you have to ask yourself is, when this Board of County Commissioners took over, and Indian Head being in the state that it was, what did they do? They went ahead and they removed all the commercial and industrial uses around Indian Head. They failed to support Maryland Airport. Our Safeway is now closing. And then hats off to the United Way here in Maryland for providing a report to us. It's the Alice Report. Let me tell you about the communities right outside of Indian Head. Bryan's Road, 37% at or below poverty. Potomac Heights, 68% at or below poverty. Indian Head, 46% at or below poverty. So look at the actions of this Board of County Commissioners versus the rhetoric. And ask yourself, who is going to make the changes necessary to lift all boats here in Charles County? Thank you very much.